Here's a WeBWorK problem that might be a little bit tricky. Your version, of course, might have different numbers, but working through this one should help you. So we know that tangent of theta over 2 is what we need to find. So we will use formula 10c on page 532. So there it is, tan alpha over 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine alpha all over 1 plus cosine alpha. For this problem, of course, theta in the WeBWorK problem is going to be alpha in the textbook formula, right? So alpha equals theta. So the way we're going to do this is, here's the big picture. We're going to use the Pythagorean identity in the form of tan squared plus 1 equals secant squared. And then we can flip that over the secant to get the cosine, and then we can plug into this. To figure out the plus or minus choice here, we'll have to just be careful and think about the quadrant issue here. So here's the Pythagorean identity we're going to use. It's on page 425. I hope you recognize it. In the WeBWorK problem, we're given that tan theta equals minus 80 over 79. So substituting this into here, we get this equation. And it definitely looks like I'm going to want to use a calculator right now. So I make a common denominator, 79 squared over 79 squared, and I change this thing into this. Now, because secant and cosine are reciprocals, I can say that cosine squared is equal to this right here. So we take the square root, but we're going to be careful with the plus or minus. Also, I'm going to use a calculator for this denominator right here. So using a calculator to get 80 squared plus 79 squared, that's 12,641. And then the square root of 79 squared is, of course, 79. Now, in the WeBWorK problem, originally I was told that theta was between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, so it puts me in the fourth quadrant. So that means that the cosine of theta is positive, not negative. Okay, so I resolved the plus or minus issue. It was plus, so I just erased it. So here's where we are. We're going to have to substitute this cosine theta expression into here. This is the half-angle formula for the tangent, remember. Let's focus on the plus or minus issue here. Now, in the original WeBWorK problem, we're told that theta is between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So dividing by 2, that tells me about theta over 2, namely it's between 3 pi over 4 and pi. So if theta over 2 is in this range here, okay, here's 3 pi over 4, here's pi. So in this part of the second quadrant, in fact in the entire second quadrant, tangent of theta over 2 is, the tangent is negative, right? So that means up here, the choice here is the negative sign. So taking the minus sign and substituting this in for cosine theta, we're going to have this expression right here. So if you carefully enter this into your WeBWorK problem answer, being very careful with square roots and parentheses, and preview my answer, it will be right.